how to determine the above ground and below ground square footage on comparable properties. Here's the difficult thing. There's not really an easy way to do that. In some states, below ground square footage is counted as square footage and is getting about the same or within reasonable amount of square footage of above ground square footage. Those states are typically more in the West. When you go back into the East, a lot of those states don't recognize below ground square footage, and it's not used in determining the value of the property. So there's two different things. There's not a simple way or a simple answer to this question when you're analyzing properties inside the investor's edge. Where the square footage actually comes from is really what's important. So what you're getting is total square footage. Now, if you're visiting the house in person, you're gonna have a much better idea. But if you're not visiting the house in person, then you're gonna have to use the best available information. So above grade square footage, AGSF, standing for above grade square footage, refers to finished livable space that is entirely above the ground. So if you're dealing with something like a walkout basement or anything, that's actually going to be below ground. So let's give just kind of a little example here. So let's say dirt's like this. We come in and the house is like this, but we build a basement that comes down like this, okay? That's below, right? I'm going down steps that's below the grade. Basement's below the grade. Maybe it needs to be a little bigger for this diagram. So anything that is here or above is considered above ground square footage, but it has to be finished square footage. It has to be usable square footage. It can't just be stuff that's just there that no work has been done to it. And then below grade square footage is stuff that's below the grade. However, what's important with below grade is just like a crawl space, that's not something you're going to want to count as square footage. So let's say this wonderful house went there and they came down a little bit, and you can get down here and crawl around, but you're not gonna be able to stand up, and it's just dirt. And then you've got your foundation, footings, that type of stuff. That's not gonna be something you're gonna count towards square footage, nor would I be calling that below grade square footage or BGSF, below grade square footage. This is gonna refer to partially finished or fully furnished. Below ground really has to do with basements, okay? And the value you're going to get for that really depends on where the property is actually located. Now, knowing the difference between these helps you ensure that you're getting like for like properties when you're determining after repaired value. Because if you're using an unfinished basement in one area of the country that they don't use that for the total square footage, and you're comparing that to one that actually has a fully finished basement, it's not going to be like for like. Or if you have something that just has a crawl space versus a finished basement, that's not going to be a good property to use as in comparable unless you make some adjustments. And making adjustments is where it gets more difficult to come up. There's more opinion in that than there is actually having like for like comparables. One of the other things as we're talking about this with comparables, the very best thing you can do is find the exact same house in the exact same neighborhood within a few blocks of the property that has just recently sold. That is the ideal. If I can find 3 houses within a few blocks, exact same square footage, exact same floor plan that recently sold in the last 6 months, that's the best way that I can do to get these comparables. But that's not realistic all the time. And so that's where we start going out and we start going back. So we start widening how far we go out, and we start widening how many months back we actually go to try and find those types of properties. But if you can find the exact same floor plan in the exact same year, then you can have a better idea of comparing that square footage. Just be really careful that the above ground square footage and the below ground square footage, that you know where it is, and you know if in your area, the above ground or the below ground, what that's counted as and how much weight is given to that. If you're unsure, you can talk to a real estate agent. If you've purchased a house before, you probably know in your area what that looks like. But if you're unsure, consult with a real estate agent to get more information about how above grade and below grade square footage have an impact on the values and how to properly use that in getting comparables when you're identifying subject properties.